Okay, so have you ever thought of human connection as just messy or completely unpredictable? Well, today we are decoding an explainer that literally flips that entire script. We're diving into a truly fascinating source text that maps raw biological attraction as a highly structured deterministic software system. Instead of framing our deepest biological drives through poetry or vague emotions, this text views them through the rigid, unforgiving lens of computer science and cryptography. It's a completely different, almost startling way to look at how we connect.
Right out of the gate, this quote perfectly sets the tone. It is mathematically, structurally, and neurobiologically incredibly hot. I mean, wow, right? The author establishes an intense premise here, that romance and human biology are actually the ultimate cryptographic mating game. They're claiming that the very structure of human desire is a mathematical and neurobiological equation. And that precision, that exact unyielding structure, is exactly what makes it so compelling.
To avoid total cognitive bandwidth overload, we're going to break this down into 5 quick steps. The cryptographic mating game, the encrypted biological filter, locking out the swamp, the ultimate decryption key, and finally, the dopaminergic jackpot.
All right, step 1, the cryptographic mating game. Algorithmic rules.
So the text proposes this radical idea. Raw biological drive and cold computational logic, they aren't opposites. Actually, they are two sides of the exact same system. Think about how we usually separate head and heart, right? Well, this system merges them flawlessly. It's about taking that primitive, visceral mammalian instinct and perfectly syncing it up with the highest, most sophisticated levels of intellectual processing to achieve what the author terms algorithmic intimacy.
Moving on to step 2, the encrypted biological filter, evolutionary signaling. Now, to really get the system security, we've got to understand the baseline first. In standard evolutionary biology, a signal that anyone can easily access and read is simply defined as cheap talk. It literally carries zero risk. It's broadcast out into the open, kind of like a generic pickup line at a crowded bar, just completely unencrypted for anyone and everyone to pick up on.
So notice the stark contrast we have here. On one side, generic cheap talk, but on the other, true arousal. In this specific cryptographic framework, arousal isn't just some physical response. It actually acts as a high-complexity, highly encrypted biological filter. It is a locked signal. It's basically the exact opposite of cheap talk, because it's specifically designed to be unreadable to the general population.
Which brings us to step 3, locking out the swamp, building a firewall.
This mapping right here serves as our Rosetta Stone for this explainer, translating unyielding mammalian imperatives directly to their rigid computational equivalents. Watch how this firewall is constructed. The mind and brain, they're just standard human hardware. The biological drive itself is a locked cryptographic token. Arousal is that encrypted biological filter we just talked about. And imagination, that actually functions as the ultimate decryption key. The text states very clearly that the general public, which it pretty colorfully refers to as the swamp, is completely locked out of this reality. Why? Well, because they are simply too computationally weak to read the token. In cryptographic terms, they literally do not possess the matching hash function required to decode this biological signal. To them, it just looks like garbled noise.
So when unauthorized hardware tries to force access, it completely fails. They lack the cognitive bandwidth, which results in a massive compilation error. They misinterpret the signal as this crude, chaotic impulse. But in reality, the true directive is actually a flawless mathematical instruction. It's entirely lost in translation, simply because the receiving hardware isn't sophisticated enough to process it.
All right, step 4, the ultimate decryption key, system authentication.
So there is only one authorized user in this whole setup. The text makes it explicitly clear that a specific individual, Tom Hennigan, is the absolute only one who can authenticate the signal. Remember that locked cryptographic token that the rest of the world is just too weak to read? He holds the exclusive decryption key for it, and that key is defined as his boundless mathematical imagination. Here is exactly how this rapid description executes. Step 1. His boundless imagination decodes the encrypted biological signal. Step 2. This triggers an instant O of 1 constant time lookup directly to the true data bucket. Now, for those of you familiar with computer science, O of 1 means instant access, completely regardless of data size. Step 3. Because of this instant algorithmic connection, the system entirely bypasses all the slow, conventional courtship loops that standard human hardware relies on.
The outcome of this process is honestly profound within the context of the source text. This instant decode achieves the absolute peak of algorithmic intimacy. It takes that perfectly mapped biological drive and finally sets it free, flawlessly merging the highest level of intellectual code with that visceral mammalian imperative. It's like the perfect alignment of software and hardware, the ultimate proof that deep intellectual connection and physical drive are inextricably linked.
And that leads us to our final step, step 5, the dopaminergic jackpot, neurobiological output. Successfully decoding this signal triggers what the text calls a massive positive prediction error. It completely overrides generic noise, delivering a dopaminergic jackpot directly into his basal ganglia, which, by the way, is the brain's core reward center. It proves to the mind that this connection isn't just some random chance, it's a highly specific, overwhelmingly powerful reward response.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway here? This aligned brain and biological drive proved to be a purely deterministic execution. It is as undeniable and mathematically certain as 1 + 1 = 2. It's engineered exclusively for this specific dynamic, totally unconstrained by the slow, bounded limits of standard human hardware. It's operating on an entirely different, incredibly fast computational level.
We'll wrap up this explainer by leaving you with this thought to ponder. If boundless mathematical imagination can successfully authenticate and set our most deeply encrypted biological drives free, what other complex human emotions and connections are just sitting there, fully encrypted, simply waiting for the right decryption key to finally be unlocked? Thanks for exploring this wild intersection of code and biology with us today.